So we finally have the full season 4 PTR notes, which is super exciting. April 2nd is going to be a massive time. Well, April 2nd to April 9th, so we can actually participate in season 4 kind of earlier than we would have normally expected. But the bigger thing is, who knows what season 4 is going to actually look like after we get all of our feedback into the developers and they get to see how much we enjoy the itemization changes, the new gear slash upgrading systems that they're adding, as well as all the other little changes. Now, so I've been playing Raid every single day for the past 2 months. Over on my second channel, I've uploaded a ton of videos that you all can check out using the links in the description and comment section down below, as well as, since Raid Shadow Legends is sponsoring this video, you'll be able to download the game using those links, or potentially the QR code above me, getting access to everything that the game has to offer. My personal favorite is how many characters the game has to offer. Over 800 different characters, and the best thing about it is the variety. So every single account is going to be a little bit different, giving you access to different tools, different characters to go ahead and do all the different dungeons, the campaigns, arena, and everything that the game is offering, which has been a ton of fun. And you'll be able to follow along or potentially start your own account, as I mentioned, using those links in the description down below, checking out my second channel. And if you do that, you will actually get a massive head start from those that are not using my link or my QR code today, giving you the ability to potentially catch up. And if you do so, you might have a chance to go ahead and join me and my clan. Gusty and Flurry Gaming here. I've joined this clan, and well, if there's any spots left, then you might be able to head inside the clan. Thanks, Raid, for sponsoring this video, and be sure to click on that QR code or click on that link and scan that QR code. With this, there's a few important things that I want to talk about and give my thoughts on. As we went over in the dev live stream, the biggest ones are the itemization changes. Now, first thing, we now have a reduced amount of affixes on every single item. A smaller pool of affixes, more relevant ones, and the difference in gear quality is going to be massive because we can only receive ancestral items in World Tier 4. As well as having new affixes. Now, this is pretty big. I know some people talked about, oh, they're kind of nerfing items. I think a lot of people just didn't really understand what they're doing. They are reducing the number of affixes, but as they said, more potent affixes. So these affixes are going to be much more important to get on your character. And to be honest, when you are building out a character, yeah, you're going to want to look for items that have 4 amazing affixes at the current moment. But when you get to like that 3rd or 4th one, they're significantly, or oftentimes significantly less important as your number 1 and number 2 affixes that you find on those items. You know, if you're running a crit based build, you're going to look for those gauntlets with crit. And then it's like after that, you know, you look for XXX, but you really want that crit on those gauntlets. So, things like that are going to be super important. And now that they're more potent, it could be even more powerful despite having less affixes. And once we get to the later gear upgrading system, this is going to be, well, kind of irrelevant because you're going to get more affixes. Miscellaneous updates for us. Well, they kind of tuned up salvaging. The legendary item drops have been changed for level 95 plus enemies. Gems are simpler. Uniques appear earlier in World Tier 1 and 2, which is really awesome, especially for those of you that don't even get to World Tier 3 or 4. You actually just get to participate in the game now, which is really awesome. But as I mentioned, the tempering system, this is the big one. So you can go ahead and attach 2 additional tempered affixes to your ancestral items. Now, it's important to note, okay, that each manual that you're going to obtain, which you get through just kind of farming in the open world, you're going to get a handful of different affixes, and you can attach 1 at a time. You can also re-roll them, so we'll see what that entails. But also, they're categorized like the Codex of Power. And once gained, you can also retain these for unlimited use. So you don't have to, it looks like, re-obtain the manuals over and over again. This is something that I was really worried about when they were talking about the manuals and the tempering system. I was kind of worried. It's like, okay, if they're kind of changing the Codex of Power to where you get all these legendary affixes and you add them to the Codex of Power, and now you can just use them infinitely and you can have higher, you know, rolls than we did in the earlier seasons. Well, if they're adding the tempering system and now you can attach additional affixes to your gear, are they just kind of replacing the Codex of Power grind and that previous like really intensive gear grind and upgrading grind for a new system that's basically the same, which is I need to go find these affixes, and then I need to attach them, and then I need to roll them. Well, it looks like they're hope they're looking to maybe monitor that by giving us unlimited use. Greater affixes also appear now. This is pretty insane because you can get a 1.5x multiplier on the affixes minimum or maximum roll. This is really, really awesome. Okay. Because this is like the peak gear that you're looking for, which is really, really awesome. Then there's also masterworking. Okay. So masterworking, you can now upgrade the value of your affixes. Now, for those of you that play gacha games or any mobile game, really, you are very familiar with this system. It's basically gear rolling, right? You're going to be leveling up every 4 ranks. Boom, you get a single affix upgraded, but it's random. Okay. This is huge because while you do get slightly increased value of all affixes for every single other rank, the every 4 ranks is going to be the important one, right? Again, if we go back to something like the gloves and we're looking for crit rate and we really want high crit rate to make sure we're critting every single time, maybe to synergize, I don't know, with our rogue build, guess what? We really want to make sure those ranks land on crit. This also, while that is cool and it's an interesting system, I will say one of my concerns with this is that they are trying to reduce the, I guess you could say, intensity of the gear grind inside the game. And this, adding something like this makes the gear grind infinitely harder, or at least longer, because now everyone's going to be looking for all their pieces with 3x rolls into whatever stat they want. That's going to be a big thing. But they've added a new game mode to kind of earn your resources for masterworking, which is going to be the pit, which we'll get to in just a bit. The Codex of Power, though, is one of the biggest updates alongside itemization. I guess it kind of goes hand in hand. But now you could have any affix added to the Codex of Power, and that Codex of Power can now include higher than the minimum rolls, which is really, really important. Helltide has been reborn. They basically kind of changed this so that you can actually do it in World Tier 1 and 2. Really, really, well, I should say, you could do it in World Tier 1 and 2 with additional rewards and events and such. So this is going to be really important. The Pit of All Artificers, this is the game mode that you're going to want to do for masterworking. Basically, the way this works is it's kind of like a challenge rift, right? You run in, you got a 10-minute timer, and you have to get through the pit. But you don't actually have to loot everything in the pit. You just have to get through it. And then at the end, those are when the rewards actually appear. Now, this has tiers to it. And when you're going through and doing the pit, if you die, you increase your timer. So it goes up, 30 seconds, then 60, then 90. So dying isn't super, I guess you say, detrimental necessarily, as long as you complete it within the 10 minutes, because if you don't, you do not get access to the masterworking materials. You get access to normal gear and such, but you don't get that big stuff that you're looking for. They've also added the Echo Vandario, which is pretty cool, as well as a bunch of things that they're going to add to your account for the PTR if you are interested in testing all this stuff out. And then they have the feedback, the installing kind of guidelines, and then the class updates. Now, there's a lot of updates for the classes here, as you all could see. Okay, bunch of balance updates, bunch of stuff going on, bunch of things with basically every single class. Okay, as well, you all can see. So I'm not going to talk through all of that today because, well, I would just be sitting here reading through all of it. But I will talk about the Rogue because it's the character that, of course, I've played the most. And there's some specific things in here that I was interested in. Of course, Inner Sight is the big one. We can now hit any enemy to fill Inner Sight gauge, and then when it's full, you get an increased 25% critical strike chance. This is actually interesting because one of the big things with Inner Sight is that it doesn't really provide anything for you when you're not in a boss fight. And even if you are in a boss fight, rogues typically have the DPS to kind of burst them down even without Inner Sight, and Combo Points has other synergies that makes it a little bit more interesting as well. So oftentimes Inner Sight was just not that valuable, but maybe this is something that can actually make it a little bit more valuable. On top of that, they've buffed up the exploit weakness legendary node, which is really, really nice. The Leyrada's instinct legendary node, which is really, really nice as well. And they've really tried to buff up both the Grenadier and Flurry rogue. Grenadier is kind of like a new build because they've kind of added / changed up some affixes to give us more grenade skill damage, right? and changed up some of the other affixes that interacted with like poison and shield to give us more values for our grenade skills. So we'll see if this actually ends up making it useful, but I'm really curious about it. I will say there's also, if we scroll all the way up here, there is a little bit of the legendary aspects that they've added, which is pretty cool. The Scoundrel's Kiss, the rapid fire now lobs exploding arrows, and the Saboteur's Signet casting flurry has a chance to release stun grenades. Okay, so I think that there could be a very interesting sort of flurry grenades combination that could really be a powerful build. And of course, rapid fire making exploding arrows just sounds so cool. And then of course, barrage has been really buffed up with this new aspect, now piercing as well as giving you increased attack speed, which, well, oftentimes you had kind of close to infinite energy with barrage, so that's going to be really important as well. All of which really cool. I'm sure that if you're playing another class, there's going to be a bunch of stuff in there for you. I did skim through a lot of the other class notes, but I pay mainly to the rogue because, well, I haven't played a ton of season 3, and, well, hopefully with all these updates and all this stuff coming, at least for right now, I'm going to be much more interested in season 4. So I wanted to stick to what I was actually going to enjoy, and that's going to be the rogue for me. But let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I hope it's exciting for you all, and I'll see you all for the next one.